Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and today we're coming back with another Switch video from Unikeys. We have a list of them, we have a bunch to go over. I'm really interested in this one because this is supposed to be a really nice clacky Switch from Keygeek, and they actually did some updates with their molds, so I'm really curious how that's going to be like, and of course, hear it in the different boards that I have. So let's go straight into the sound test, and of course, looking at the Switch, but please, make sure to like and subscribe.
Now introducing the Keygeek M3, a 50% fiberglass switch, which is going to be incredibly clacky. I think this is going to be interesting to see, so let's hear it. Now, one thing I've noticed with the Switch is that it is incredibly clacky, and overall, I was quite impressed with how it felt. Even with foam, it was so clacky. Now, in terms of the travel of the Switch itself, so we start off at 18.1 millimeters, and then when you press down, it goes to 14.3. That's a total of 3.8 millimeter travel. Now, the Switch does say it's 3.6 millimeters, but it does have plus or minus 0.2. That means it does kind of line up with what they're saying. Now, overall, I felt that the Switch was quite nice in terms of the smoothness and how Keygeek built this thing, but there was one caveat with the specific Switch that I wasn't a big fan of, and a lot of people have been saying and mentioning it with me with how the Keygeek new molds are. Now you can see here Keygeek changed up their molding. This means that they actually changed this up so that it fits a lot more snug inside some plates. There's one issue though. The thing is that if you have a alu plate or a plate that is a little bit more on the firmer side, then what happens is it doesn't fit all the time. You could actually have situations where if you have a very firm plate, it might not even fit at all, and it is not usable in terms of that. So you have to keep in mind that you might even have to like mold or press in your switches just so that it can fit into, say, some alu plates out there. It's not going to be every single keyboard, but it will be some. Now, in terms of the stock lubing of the Keygeek M3, they do have lube in terms of the leaf contact point on the bottom housing. It is actually quite a decent amount in terms of the contact points, but it does make the Switch feel quite smooth. And then looking at the stem itself, you can already notice that it barely has any lube in there. So what Keygeek does is they very lightly lube their stems and then just build the stems to be a little bit more on the tighter side to the top housing, which does help in terms of the smoothness. But overall, you can really see that they do very minimal looping, and it does feel quite good. They even have looping on the contact points of the stem, and it does help with the contact with the leaf, and overall you will get a very smooth experience. Do you have to hand loop these switches? No, you do not. Keygeek does a great job with making it so that you don't have to loop the switches at all in terms of how they feel or how smooth they will be, and that is a great thing. Now, in terms of the spring, it is a single stage spring, but it is 18 millimeters, meaning that it is going to be a little bit shorter than some of the other springs that they've been using. I personally prefer something longer, as it does help in terms of the overall feel of the switch. I feel like it does reduce the pressure at the top end, and then it starts to build and build while you press down, and I just like that feeling overall compared to a shorter spring, which you just feel more pressure throughout the whole switch, which some people might really enjoy. I know that's what Cherry does. Now, in terms of how loud these switches are, they are very loud. You're looking at going to 70 decibels, which is a vacuum level in terms of how loud they can be, and if you wanted to use this somewhere else, like in the office space, you will not be able to because of how loud they are. So keep in mind for yourselves. Now, in terms of the actuation feel, they do feel quite light for a 53-gram switch. You would think that you would get a little bit more pressure throughout the switch and stuff, but overall, it feels incredibly light, it feels very smooth, and you don't really get any of like that scratcher feel from these switches, which is incredible. Now, in terms of the top movement, so you can really see here at the top end, you're not getting any rattling, which is good, but when you do press the switch down, you do get some stem wobble. Now, if you are sensitive to stem wobble, you're not going to enjoy these, so keep in mind for yourselves in terms of that, because you will have some stem wobble with this. Now, going into the actual fitting, this is what I meant in terms of it. So right now I'm using a PP plate, so obviously once I put these switches in, it did stretch it out a bit, meaning that these switches are going to fit in a little bit better. But you can kind of see here when I'm putting it in that it has a point of friction that does need a little bit of pressure to press in. This is what happens with this new molding. You actually get a little bit of that fitting issue because of how big the bottom housing is, and then it can get stuck, or for outlet plates, it just won't work at all. Now, in terms of the backlighting, your lighting will be affected by the color of the switch, so it does get a little bit yellow. Now, it's not a full-on yellow change, like say, for example, some of the other switches out there with yellow housings, but you will see a little bit of yellow coming through. Now, in terms of my spreadsheet and comparing it with some of the switches out there, even comparing it with like the Keygeek B1 or the Cheese V2 in terms of the clackiness, it actually is quite up there with them. Though I would say the B1 is still going to be higher pitched compared to the Keygeek M3, but the B1 will be louder. So the M3 is actually not as loud compared to those switches, but it does feel very smooth, and I think it has a very nice clack to it.
My final thoughts on the M3 switches is that it is a very nice clacky switch. Now, there are some caveats with it, specifically the fact that the mold is a little bit too tight in terms of certain plates, so you're going to deal with that with some plates out there where even some might not fit at all. So Keygeek really needs to look into this because it's an issue, right? You want to make sure it fits, and it's a little bit too tight for some boards out there. Now, if you do like something really bright, I think you'll be interested in these switches, but just keep in mind the fact of how it fits inside of a plate. You can go check it out in the links in the description. You can also save 7% if you use code Mikey at Unikeys. And of course, check out Unikeys because they got a ton of stuff and really cool things coming in. And I'm sure that Unikeys is only going to bring in even cooler switches. So go check them out. Go get some switches for yourself that you're interested in. And of course, use that reward system. They have a reward system where you can collect points and then get more discounts. So check it out on the bottom left corner. It'll say it right there. Now check out the other videos I got, and I'll have to catch you guys next time.